On with the show, this is it.
Get ready for truth and common sense. Join the Framers View on Rumble.com to be part of the chat. Be sure to click join and follow to help keep the Framer on the air. Watch the replay on theframersview.com or Rumble.com.
It is Wednesday, middle of the week, hump week. If you watch The Lost Kingdom, you'll laugh at that term. Anyway, welcome to the show. Thank you for being a Framers View. Click on follow, click on share, click on like, click on everything that you've got. Just click. Just keep clicking. Just click, 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 click. I need more viewers. Come on, baby. Make it happen. So, hey, it's cleanup on aisle 1600. Today, you know how when you were a kid and it was almost Christmas time, we just had Christmas. I don't know if you knew that, but we just almost had Christmas. And when you were a kid, all the gifts were around the tree, and there was one tree and like 2 gifts, maybe. Well, maybe it was a little more than that sometimes. But the point is, you wanted to open them up on the 23rd. Well, today, it's kind of like that for me. I have so much content that I really should have pushed some of it off to tomorrow. It wasn't time sensitive, but there's just so much that I want to share with you that here it is, here we are, and we're just going to rock with it. What do you say? Everybody good with that? I hope you are. So again, thank you for joining me and being part of what they call Framers View. By the way, if you want to tell friends for them to be able to go back and see some of the shows, if you just type in rumble.com/Framers View, one word, Framers View, it'll take you to my portal on Rumble and you can see the videos that I've pushed over there. And I try to update those as we go along. But you can also, if you follow, you can also have my show. It'll be listed on the front page of rumble.com. Or you can use my link and you can send the link to somebody. Whew. That's a lot of stuff. But there you have it. So, man, like I said, I've got so much to cover today. Claire McCaskill, if you remember who she is, what she is, she's kind of an Elizabeth Warren devotee. She's wringing her hands all the time and worried about America, and she couldn't care less. That's just her. Is California becoming more conservative? Well, than ever? Maybe not more than since like Reagan, but yeah, I think so. And another point is that the fact checkers are changing up, and there's some people unhappy about that. That's good. We're going to have fun with that. Seniors, retirement, it's been kind of ugly for the last few years. And you may think, well, the Dow is up. That isn't what retirement is. Your retirement funds aren't on the stock market. They can be in bonds, they can be in all kinds of different things, but usually it's not tied to the Dow. Hopefully not. Fundraisers, some of them are changing parties. This will be fun to talk about. Kathy Hochul, hey, she's got a new way to raise some money and eliminate some of the traffic in New York City. Hey, I lived in New York, lived right down in Manhattan, and I got to tell you, it was always jammed with traffic. Yeah, in my day, it was solid yellow from yellow cab vehicles that were on the road. Nowadays, it's just all kinds of cars and their Uber and their Lyft and whoever else is out there doing that stuff, and limos, those type of things. But we'll talk about that. We've got some tax cuts to worry about and to discuss. And also, even when it sucks, the economy, even when that sucks, America is still dominant. We'll have a little bit on that too. But first, I have to bring up, because you can't go to any TV show in any network and not see the story of the fires in Palisades, California, which is going to be what looks like spreading to other parts. I know that they're hitting into Malibu now. There's just a lot going on with that. And, you know, being a retired firefighter, going on wildland calls, some of my buddies that watch the show, they know. They've been on calls with me when we've gone out there. And we've got people that deploy all over the western states to help those states. I don't know if my department has sent some people out. I haven't talked to them here in the last couple of days, but possibly they have. It's ugly. And I feel for those people. When you see the looks on people's faces when their homes are burning to the ground, or they know it's burning to the ground, they're far enough away they can't see it most of the time, but they know. It's horrific. So I pray for those people that are out there. You know, where I live, wildland fire danger is huge. Fortunately, we got snow on the ground. The chances of it happening here are minimal, but it can still happen. You know, there's still dead stuff hanging up over the snow, and it can happen. Just in case you didn't know, when it snows, that's one nice thing. But the other thing that you need to realize is that fire does what it wants to. It's just what it is. The wind blows a certain way, it's all over. Anyway, I won't pound on that anymore. Hey, lawfare continues. Our foreign allies know better, but the political corruption that's in this country is insane. So Merrick Garland, you might know this jackass. Merrick Garland is the guy that's the U.S. Attorney General. And he's decided he's going to release some of the documents of Jack Smith's case. For what purpose? Other than try to embarrass Trump, which honestly, nobody cares. That's why he got in. Nobody cares. Leave it alone. You lost. Your party lost. Your person that you bow to, Joe Biden, lost. Kamala Harris lost. Every state that could have been flipped, county that could have been flipped in the United States didn't get flipped by Kamala Harris. Trump won. It's over. Get over it. And these things, these cases are nonsense. Total nonsense. But just when you think it's coming to an end, there was a story last night here on Denver television, local news. They just arrested a January 6th guy that lives in Colorado, the feds. Are you kidding me? They want to keep this thing going, whatever they have to do. And it is stupid. It's just stupid. You know, we've got grandmas in jail. They've been there for 4 years. Some people, as far as I can tell, there's some people that are there that have still not been charged or had a trial. Why? Is it really that necessary? To them it is. We'll see what happens. Hey, even Biden is admitting that his age, he said it out loud, you know, his mind, his age, his health. But he told Barack Obama when he was going to run for office this time, he said, I'm good for the job. You know, and then he was asked the other day, could you have done it another 4 years? And he flim-flammed through that. It was just crazy. I told you it was coming yesterday. You might remember yesterday when all our troubles seemed so, never mind. I said Trump is going to do something to stop this conviction, trial, sentencing nonsense not happen on Friday. They've made an emergency filing to the Supreme Court for them to stop the sentencing because he hasn't had a chance to appeal. And that's the least the President of the United States ought to get, even though we know it's not a real trial anyway. It was a lawfare trial. but that's what's happening. And then John Fetterman, we all know him, the poor guy, John Fetterman, when he was running for senator, watching him on the debate, I should find those videos and bring them up sometime. They would ask him a question and he would say something completely out of the blue. Poor guy. Man, but now he's become pretty sharp, and not only has he become sharp, he's speaking common sense. And now, funny to think about this, but he is now supporting Trump with the idea of getting Greenland. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, but this whole idea of Greenland isn't just Trump wants the land. There's not much on that land, but I've talked before. This is about security. This is about national and world security, because as the ice flow melts, which it's done over and over again over the centuries, ice melts because we have warming times, and then ice freezes because we have colder times, and then that opens up, and the Chinese and the Russians can come through the upper straits through past Greenland, which our ports are right there, where ships come through to come in to Canada and the United States. This is important to understand. When you look at where Russia is, it's just to run across if you want to do it that way. So Fetterman is saying, yeah, we really need to think about that. So that's where we are with that. All right, on with the show. So you remember, by the way, nobody made a comment, but I'd be love to know if you like the fact that I widened out the shot a little bit on the show here. It isn't just a flag behind me. It just felt too confining. And I'd be curious to know if you like it better or not. Just chat and say whether you care for that. Anyway, Claire McCaskill, she's just out of her mind, which is normal. But in this case, it's about the fact that Donald Trump got into office. And of course, she says stuff that isn't true, which is normal, because it's one of two things. They're either stupid or they have no need or feeling that they have to actually check what they're going to say. But here's the story, and it's interesting to see this, because this is part of the show today, talking about cleaning up all these things. When I say cleaning up on aisle 1600, I hope you know what that means. If you don't, I don't know what to do or how to help you. But here's the story. It's not time for Dems to tune out. It's time for them to follow Harris's lead and fight, whatever that means. I'm bitter that a higher political price wasn't paid for what Trump did 4 years ago on January 6th, when a mob of his supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. It's clear that something is broken in our political and legal system, and we need to acknowledge that. Yeah, we got to acknowledge that. Why hasn't he been chained and then have his head cut off? I don't understand it. But the other thing we must keep front of our mind is that Trump won less than 50% of the popular vote. Let's just stop right there for a second. He didn't lose. He didn't win by less than 50%. He had 76 million, and there was 74 million is half of the total votes. When you look at the total votes that occurred, divided by 2, he had 50-something%. It was over 50%. Despite what the president-elect may want you to believe, she said, about the 50% lead, this is an evenly divided country, which I agree with, by the way. It is evenly divided. That's why it's important that we keep pushing to get better politicians to run for the Republican side. The anti-incumbency settlement was real. It's all over the world. No, that's not what it is. That's why these people are losing. That's why these people do lose. And here's what I say about that, or why I say that. It's not that they didn't want the incumbent to stay in. That isn't what elections are about. Well, I don't want an incumbent to win. Let's say it's somebody like, I don't know, you loved Obama, you morons. We're going to have a story tomorrow about that. You loved Obama and you wanted his incumbency and you didn't hate that idea. And there were many countries that had incumbencies that won, and then all of a sudden they didn't. Now, why would that be? Did we all of a sudden just decide we don't like incumbents? I have an answer for that, by the way, just in case you wondered. And the answer is, no, that isn't what it's about. It isn't about the incumbency. It's about they went too far left. Look what Macron's going through in France. Look what happened in Canada with Trudeau. You know, when you do stupid, liberal, out of control nonsense, sooner or later, people go, you know what, wait a minute. That's enough. We need to get somebody else in. This was an easy one because we already knew what Trump does for his first 4 years. And he's going to be even better this time because he learned a lot. You know, I've always told people, you know, you don't go into a job as a leader when you come in, especially if you're coming in to fix things. And you don't just start changing things based on what you always do. You change things on what you learn of what they're doing and what their problems are. And you find out who the good people and who the bad people are before you ever make changes. You just don't do that. So then you make the changes. Well, for Trump, you know, he saw all this, but they are so corrupt in Washington, D.C. It took him a while to figure out these people are bad news. And he picked some bad people. Jeff Sessions for Attorney General. What an idiot. He was worthless. And you know, he seemed like he was gung-ho, but he was worthless. So that's just what happens. That's what occurs when you first come into office. And maybe at the end of 4 years, you're already doing good and you win the second term. But Trump didn't have a chance to do that. There wasn't a chance. With all the press, everybody going after him and being impeached twice, you know, everything they could do, arrest him, put him go and do, you know, raids in his house. How in the world would he ever win election? And then they realized what they did with Biden. And they knew that Kamala couldn't do it. And here we are. So with that said, and what I've talked about, they've gone too far. They've pushed it to the limits. The AOCs of the world, and some that are even worse than her. That's hard to even imagine. But all of this has gotten to a point where it ain't good. So I used to work for a company that had their offices in Huntington Beach, California, and I was there a lot. And they're somewhat conservative in Huntington Beach. That's kind of the little part of LA that's more conservative than others. But they've just changed the way they deal with their policies with criminals. And I had to show this video because it's just classic. These are people that think they're just going to get a citation. Okay, now we've been arrested, we'll get a citation and we'll go away, and then we won't show up for court, and they'll put out a subpoena to get us, and they won't be able to find us because we'll be hiding under a tree someplace, and then it'll all go away and we'll be fine because nobody does anything anyway, and we can steal whatever we want to, break whatever laws we want to. Well, watch this video. This is in Huntington Beach. It's truly, it's Orange County, but that's Huntington Beach, and some other areas, but there.
It's just a petty theft. Stand up.
So Orange County is different. When you go to Orange County, you go to county jail. That's how it works in Orange County and Seal Beach.
You go to county jail?
Yeah. Orange County prosecutes for theft.
So why wouldn't it just be a listen to me.
Because this is Orange County, this is LA County. We don't cite and release.
Are we going to go to county? Or you go to county. Get a ticket. You go to county. They'll release you from there.
Welcome to Orange County.
Yeah. So this is a perfect example. These people, first of all, they gave them a free pass in California and New York and many states, many areas, many cities. They gave them a free pass by saying, hey, it's okay if you don't steal any more than, let's see, how about $1,000? If you just steal less than $1,000, we're not going to stop you. We're not going to arrest you. We're not going to call the police. We're going to tell our employees not to do anything. Just step back, let them do their thing, steal our stuff. You know, now your pay is not going to go up because we can't afford to have them stealing this stuff and give you more money for pay. But don't do anything. That's what they think is a good idea. So now Orange County is arresting. And of course, Newsom is not happy about this. But too bad. So I hope this happens across the board. I hope finally people and governments make a difference. Orange County, Huntington Beach, I think the mayor of Huntington Beach just got elected, and all of the council members in Huntington Beach went from liberal to conservative. They've had it. They're done with it. It's insane. So that's where we are today, and it's slowly happening. And I think Trump is a big influence on that. I've talked about personal power, and with people, it's something you can't teach. It's something you can't train. You can't practice for. You can't do push-ups and become better at personal power. It just doesn't work that way. The way it works is you have it in you. You have a passion. That's what makes the difference. So, with that said, we still have people that are just a little bit flipped out. Not a little bit, are flipped out. And one of them is MSNBC, Morning Joe, and his idiot wife. And they did a story yesterday that was just so classic, and we'll comment on it. I've got 2 pieces on this, and it's too good to pass up. This is all about X, because, Twitter, which used to be the world famous to Dems, site where we got rid of all those Republicans that would say anything that's against what the Democrats do, say, or think. And now all of a sudden we're letting it be a free social media source, which they don't think it's free anymore, of course, because the tide has turned. So watch this video, and we'll talk about this on the other side.
And New York Times columnist Andrew Ross Sorkin. Andrew, it just goes from bad to worse with Meta and with so many others. Anne Applebaum, who of course is a brilliant writer and writes on autocrats and misinformation, has talked and warned about for some time about the fact that Meta, Facebook, Instagram, X, other companies are deliberately pushing down Threads, deliberately pushing down, suppressing political journalism and gutting its fact-checking system. And now Mark Zuckerberg does this, and he says that there's a shifting political and social landscape and the desire to embrace free speech. Yeah, well, is that like what we've seen on X, where misinformation is worse today than it's ever been?
Well, let me add a couple of notes to this. In addition to those things that you just described, they added Dana White, the head of the UFC, to their board in the last 24 hours. Just give you a little bit of political context of what's happening here. Nick Clegg, who you may remember was running their policy business, he's now leaving the company. The other thing they said, interestingly, was to the extent that they are going to have people working for Facebook policing, if you will, content, they are moving out of California, those people in that department, to the state of Texas and other states.
This is just too perfect. Home. They're moving to Texas. That's that communist Republican state. Well, what are we going to do? I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Now they're talking about, free speech is taken away and misinformation is there. I'm on X. I look at X all the time. There's people speaking on both sides, some disgusting stuff, but it's free speech. There's people out there that hate Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy, even they hate me. They hate anybody that says anything against what they believe. That's really what this is all about. If you don't say what we want you to say, we want to destroy you. So you might know what community notes are or what that is. Community notes is what X has, where community can type in and suggest that there's something misinformation or not agree with, and they can put it in there, and then whoever it is that does those things will check it out and determine whether we're going to handle it or not. Misinformation is bad on both sides, and misinformation shouldn't occur. But who decides what misinformation is? And they're worried that those guys that's moved to Texas, they're going to be Republicans, and the misinformation will all be what we say. Which, like Claire McCaskill, which I did earlier in the show here, she said Trump didn't even win by 50%. Yes, he did. But everybody that saw that story that hasn't heard Framer's View, there's probably some other people that's shown that. But if you haven't seen the other side of that and done a little math, you'd think that Trump didn't win by 50% or more, which he did. He won. That's the way it works. He won the popular vote. And it's not just that he got more votes, he got more than 50% of the votes. Just do the math. So it continues. And this guy with Joe talks about this entire comments section.
So just to put sort of the full picture here, Community Notes, by the way, I think in some respects is actually a very good product in that it's nice that there are people able to correct the record quickly. The problem is, I think we all know, though, is that, first of all, clickbait, the crazier it is, the farther it goes. And historically, the correction never gets the same kind of airtime that the first post ever gets. And so here we are in this sort of new world. But I think this is not just a Meta or Facebook story. This is a tech story across the board, whether it's this, and obviously Mark Zuckerberg had gone down to see the president-elect recently. Separately, you have Amazon making a documentary deal with Melania Trump. I mean, we can go through the list of what is happening here, but this is a major shift.
In cash, that deal, a significant deal for the Melania Trump documentary. That just was reported this.
When they talk about when it's been corrected, it's corrected way too late, and it's way back in the background. That's what's happened for years by the Dems and by the press. Look at, they talk about, some of you that are younger won't know this term, what they call about above the fold and below the fold. And that means with your, the newspaper, when you used to get it, it was, of course, folded over. This is above the fold and this is below the fold. And you wouldn't maybe see it. You get your paper and you set it down and you read that stuff, and then you open it up and you turn the page, and sometimes you don't even read it. Or the correction is in section C, and on page 12. That happens all the time. The Chicago Sun-Times, I remember reading that years and years ago when I lived in Chicago. The paper was as big as a book every day. And of course it was full of ads. But the book that you had as the paper, all the corrections were done far back. They never did it on the front page where they told the lie. That's the way that works. And now you've got the above the fold and below the fold with the internet. The internet does fold, just in case you didn't know it. So with that said, and all of the things that we're dealing with and people, what they're going through, and what the economy is like, I've got two economy stories that's really important to address. But I wanted to take a break from just the obvious nonsense and talk about something that's obviously near and dear to my heart, but to anybody that's involved with growing up and getting older. I'm retired, but not. My friends will tell me I'll never retire, and they're probably right. But here's the thing. When you put money in a 401k, which is, I think, a terrible investment, because they say, well, you don't have to pay the taxes when you put the money in. No, you pay the taxes when the tax rates are higher 30 years later when you retire. And then there's all kinds of fees, and we won't go any further with that. But you have your investments wherever they are. And it can be very, very scary when the economy's bad. Now you could say, well, hey, look, the Dow's up, S&P's up, all the indicators are up. But that's not what retirement is. That's not the way it works, not in most cases. So look at this story. This is important. Making seniors poorer, the negative impact of Biden administration's economic policies on senior citizens' retirement. This study estimates that the average 401k retirement plan has increased by about $12,000, 8.3% from the first quarter of 2021. Gee, when was that? Oh yeah, that's when Joey Biden became president of the United States. So the end of the third quarter, 24, Biden's still in, but has lost about $12,000, 9.2%, after adjusting for inflation. Now, you may say, well, it's inflation. Inflation will go down. You've still lost it. It's kind of like the stock market. If you have, let's just make it a simple number. If you have $10,000 in your market, in your investments, and you lose $2,000, you now have $8,000. Well, now the economy's up and the market is up. And you say, hey, market's up. Well, it's not up until you got your $8,000 back. That's the way it works, or doesn't work. So we'll continue here. Pension plan balances have increased from $26.9 trillion in the first quarter of 2021 to an estimated $29.1 trillion in the third quarter of 2024. Those are the balances. Adjusted for inflation, these pension plans are worth $24.4 trillion in the third quarter of 24. A real loss of $2.5 trillion. 3 of the last 4 years have been very poor average returns for bonds, with 2022 being the worst year for bonds since at least 1928. What happened in 1928? Maybe somebody knows that. I'd have to type in what happened in 1920. Oh, no, wait a minute. I think that was the Ungreat Depression. Retirement accounts with greater allocations in fixed income assets have typically seen worse losses than average. No kidding. So a person who planned on retiring with $1 million in an IRA, which they say today you need $1 million to survive for your retirement, was getting ready to leave the workforce, will have to work an additional 6 years or more to recoup the real losses sustained since the beginning of 2021. You can hope that Trump makes things way better and we can be okay sooner than that. Seniors whose savings are disproportionately in bonds and cash have experienced the worst rates of loss in the last 3.5 years. This is what I keep saying, don't just go by the market. Don't say, oh yeah, the market's great, we don't have to worry. Everything's okay. Don't worry, be happy. No, that's not right. This is a tragic situation. Most tragic thing we could have is that seniors are in this spot. And people, everybody that's not retired, I hear it all the time. They say, well, there's not going to be any Social Security when I retire, which may be true. I don't think it will be. I think they've got way more controls on that than we might think. I think we ought to probably be more worried about, our emergency oil reserve in case we have to go to war because of Biden. And it's empty. It's not empty, but it's not refilled since he took it, 3 years ago? That's the thing we should worry about. But seniors need a break here. You know, there was an increase in Social Security. I think it was like, I don't know, $50 a month, because they're claiming that inflation is down and it's based on inflation. It is down. But for seniors that don't have anything else, it's tough. It's really tough. So, with that said, we have to get an understanding of where the Democrats are and where the Republicans are from a campaign and election standpoint. Party power. And the Dems have raised, as you know, massive, massive money. They are brilliant at raising money. And their head brilliant person on raising money, of course, is Nancy Pelosi. But there's some outside people, and I want to remind you of kind of the leader of the DNC funds raiser. I call her a raiser because she is good. She brings in hundreds of millions of dollars to the DNC. She's really good at it. Watch this video. I showed this sometime, I think it was December 12th or 17th, something like that. But watch this.
This is not what America wants. November 5th was a decisive defeat for the Democratic Party. She lost every single swing state. It wasn't a squeaker like it was in 2016. This was a resounding defeat. And right now, Kamala Harris is indulging in delusions of running for governor of California, possibly in 2026, or even president again in 2028. America has said this is not what we don't want to be coconut pilled. We do not want Kamala Harris. We don't want failed border policies. And I feel like I'm liberated and I can finally tell the truth that the Democrats completely failed on the border.
This is a Dem that didn't just raise money, was the leader of raising money for the DNC. And she kept saying, you might remember me saying that she kept going to the DNC and to the campaign, the Harris campaign, and saying, how are we doing? Oh, we're doing good. We're leading. We're going to, our polls show we're leading, blah, 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 blah. And that's what they kept saying. And then all of a sudden, guess what? They didn't. And the truth came out. And that is a real problem when you have somebody that's raising huge money for the DNC. But wait, there's more. Former DNC insider torches Democrats and joins Trump's winning team. In a surprising turn of events, Lindy Lee, who I just showed you the video of, a former heavyweight fundraiser for the Democratic National Committee, DNC, has announced her appointment to the Trump-Vance Inauguration Committee. Wow. This revelation marks a significant shift in Lee's political affiliations as she transitions from fundraising for the opposition to supporting the incoming administration of President-elect Trump. According to Red State, Lee has been an outspoken critic of the Democratic Party since the election, particularly targeting the Harris campaign for its alleged financial mismanagement. That is so true. She has accused the campaign of squandering nearly $2 billion, leaving it in substantial debt. Wow. So she'll probably do fundraising, and she's become a Republican, clearly. She'll probably do fundraising for Republicans. That'll be good for us. Until we get it to a point where no money can come in to political parties, and the government, who wastes money anyway, says, here's the amount of money that you get to run for president of the United States. That's it. No more. Can't get it. And you got this much to do, and you start your campaign in July of the election year. That's it. I think that's a way to do it. Kind of like not changing the time every spring and fall. I still say change it at half an hour. 1/2 hour, not an hour, and it'll be balanced on both sides. Anyway, so there we are. There we have Lindy Lee. I call her Lindy Lou. Lindy Lee really baking the folks at the Democrat Party. That's pretty amazing. And the Democratic Party deserves this. And if you know who Van Jones is, Van Jones is a guy that every once in a while you think he's common sense, but he's a complete whacked out left-wing liberal. He was Obama advisor. He's on CNN all the time, and he's finally coming out with some facts. I'll remind you when you watch this. Remember, he's the one that also said, no, Biden's okay. Watch this.
Van, what do you make of that?
Oh, this is foolish. Look, obviously, Biden was in bad shape. And I was surprised, and other people were surprised who were not having regular contact with Biden. Biden had done a good job in the interview with Anderson Cooper, so those of us at CNN. But there were people who were close who must have known better, and people should just quit. Look, obviously, a lot was known and wasn't said and wasn't shared, and now it's leaking out all the time anyway. So it's just, look, I think to have any credibility and integrity, people have to quit playing around. Like Schumer's nose is going to start growing if he keeps.
He's talking about Schumer. I showed you that video, I think it was on Monday, that Schumer was saying, oh, he's fine, he's good, and of course they wouldn't answer should he have run again for another 4 years. But this is why the Democratic Party is in the problem they are. They lie to themselves and they lie to America. And, you can go back 40 years. Just go back 40 years. Did they lie about their party? Did they lie about their candidates? Did they do these things? Yeah, they did, but they didn't push it to the edge like they do now. And that's a real problem. It's a major problem for the Democrats, because while they think they're getting away with it, the press, and I saw this when Trump did his press conference yesterday, and I thought to myself, or was it Monday? I thought to myself, the press is dealing with this thing with Trump way different than they did. They've realized that they have a real possibility of saving their business with Trump. They wanted to destroy him, and now they know you can't, I don't like this analogy, but I got to use it. You can't kill a cockroach, right? Unless you chemical kill them. They'll survive a nuclear attack. Trump is kind of like the good guy cockroach. You can't kill him. He's been shot. He was almost shot again. We have to worry about him getting shot before the election or before the inauguration. I worry about that. But they've realized, okay, this guy isn't going away. And, that Biden guy and that Kamala person wasn't very good at this. And Trump was 4 years ago, 8 years ago when he started. So maybe we ought to treat him with a little respect. Maybe we ought to ask good questions and tough questions. One of the guys asked, are you going to do this and that to Iran? And Trump, to his credit, didn't do like he usually did. No, I'm not going to talk about military strategy. He used to say, you're just an idiot. He'll still say that. He will. But it's an interesting transition that's occurring with the press. Some press isn't going to do it. MSNBC is not going to get smart. It's not going to happen. Speaking of not smart, we all know who Kathy Hochul is. Kathy Hochul, the replacement governor for New York. She is liberal through and through. She has no common sense whatsoever. She just has her agenda. And she decided that she's going to enforce I think they call it a traffic fee, a congestion fee is what it's called, a congestion fee. And this congestion fee is to eliminate or lower the amount of vehicles that are in New York City. Now that includes everybody, all these semis and box trucks that have to come in to Manhattan to supply the stores, whether it's a diner, whether it's a clothing store, whoever it is, somehow that product has to come in truckloads. And this next story, which is important for you to see, is why Democrats just don't use their brain. And this is about NYFD, New York Fire Department. The money they're going to spend with people, fire trucks entering Manhattan, and how it all works. I'm not going to drag you through it because it's on the video. But pay attention to this. This is important. The way that the sausage is made as opposed to what Kathy Hochul thinks people like and will approve. Watch this.
They could have offered you guys an exemption, but they chose not to, and now you guys are having to figure out how to get your guys to different firehouses, right?
Absolutely. We sounded the alarm. We begged and we pleaded. Don't go down this road. There's only about 270 firefighters every single day working in the zone. We estimate the cost to be $3,000 a day because we bring our vehicles into the zone and we bring our vehicles into the city, and then we use them when they move us from firehouse to firehouse. When there's a shortage one place and a surplus another. Twice a day, you have 300 to 400 firefighters going to a different firehouse or returning from that firehouse. And they used to have the ability to use 2,000 of our cars at a moment notice. Whoever brought their car would just take their car. Now we've removed the access to the cars. The members said they're fed up. They don't want to do it. And so members are waiting 4, 6, 8 hours after their 24-hour shift to get back from where they started. And also the vehicles are now a centrally located engine where it should be in a certain area. The response area is now going 1 or 2 response areas over to transport someone. So if a run comes in, it could add minutes to response time because they're not where they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be in the center of their zone, and they're now 2 or 3 zones over.
This is, we're talking about $1 million that they're going to have to spend in fees to come into New York. And just a real quick little sausage explanation. When they go into a firehouse, let's say they're in Firehouse 7. Well, when they need extra people in 10, if they have a little bit of overload in 7, they'll send those guys over to 10. Now, usually they're going to use their personal vehicles, and maybe 10 is on Long Island. So they have to drive over to Manhattan. So they got to go through and pay $9. Well, that time that they're going between there, if a big call comes in, they don't have enough people. Now we've made a problem with the call. But because they're not using the cars, because the fire department guys are saying, no, we're not doing this anymore. I'm not paying these fees. Now they're using the fire trucks to transport these guys. So now the fire trucks are in the wrong place. It's supposed to be still in building or Station 7. They're now at Station 10. And a call comes in on the other side of Station 7. It's confusing, but it is a mess, and they have to deal with it. So continue to watch this.
It's $9 for cars, $4.50 for motorcycles, $14.40 for small trucks, and $21.60 for large trucks as well. I'm just curious, what's been the impact so far? Are we already seeing the response times being affected because of this just on day one?
Well, it's difficult to see how the response times wouldn't be affected because these units are operating well beyond their normal routine response area. We've already seen firefighters stay on duty for an extra 2, 4, 6, or 8 hours. After a 24-hour shift in a place where they're already doing 6,000 runs a year, that is a tremendous toll on the member and likely to lead to more injuries.
So I'm going to just continue with this. This is why they have to stop this nonsense. Watch this final piece. They had to negotiate this, and they wouldn't listen.
Well, we brought the conversation to them, and every one of them ended the conversation with, you need to speak to someone else. The governor sent us to the MTA. The MTA told us, you have a great case for an exemption, the best we've heard. Unfortunately, it's not our business to negotiate with you over the use of your personal cars. That's the FDNY in New York City. You have to go to them. We went to the city, we told them, and the department is fully aware of how detrimental this will be to the department, and they went to the city to try to alleviate it, and the city turned around around and said, if we give you an exemption, we'll have to do it for everybody else, and we're not going to do it. But every other city agency is forbidden from using their personal cars. And the exception is that the FDNY relies on our cars. Our business is uncontrolled chaos. You start out in the morning, wherever you start out, you could be at a fire in 5 minutes. You could be anywhere. You could be sitting around having breakfast. Who knows how your day is going to go? But if you're telling me I've got to take a member across town to get him to that firehouse and a run comes in, we have members sitting on rigs while everyone else is inside dealing with an EMS case. And a member who's waiting to go home is sitting outside saying, well, I'm off duty. I have to sit here and wait. And it's just running up overtime. And it's also causing the problem where people are out of position. You don't know where they're losing track of firefighters.
So this is $1 million, basically $1 million that they're going to spend in a year because of this congestion fee. Over $1 million. Now, in New York, in that budget, it isn't a huge amount. It's $1 million. It's the taxpayers' money. And they're about to do that in Miami, in Chicago, in LA, in San Francisco, in Seattle. Because it's a money grab. That's all it is. Speaking of money grab, these tax cuts that are going to go away at the end of this year, it's a big deal. And I want to show you why this is important, because people don't understand how all this works. So here's the story on this. Who's up for $5.1 trillion tax increase? Bernie Sanders. He and most of the gang of the Senate liberals want Trump tax cuts to expire on December 31st, which would be the largest tax increase on middle-class families and small businesses in modern times. The average cost per household will be an extra indirect $3,200 tax bill starting next year, according to the fiscal analysis. Now, here's the point. Excuse me. And this is why, we go over and over and over and talk about these things, because people have to understand. $3,200 tax bill. Look at this. An end of this lovely day. And that is, America is still dominant. And I say that with great satisfaction, if you will. And what we're talking about here is, when you take a look at what has happened with the economy, with everybody's money, what's going on, you think the country is in the trash as far as where we stand in the world. Well, take a look at this. It's just got to happen. We got to have a way to keep making our country strong, because as populations grow, as we try to resolve the problems that we have, as we, when we think about DOGE, DOGE is going to cut, and that's great. Let's say they manage to cut $2 trillion. And of course, the Dems say there's no way that'll ever happen. Well, we'll find out. They're already talking about the fact there's such misuse of those funds in a lot of these programs that if you just fixed that, you would change it. DOGE could make a huge difference for our country, but it isn't going to fix it in just one swoop. We have to make legitimate changes on the city, county, state, and federal levels. We have to stop spending like we're spending. We need to help people that are disadvantaged. I totally agree with that. My wife's going through some stuff with back problems. If she ended up in a wheelchair, I'd have to sell my house. Couldn't get her around. There's people that don't have the money to do that, or the equity in their home to be able to do that. You need to be able to take care of people. I agree with that. But homeless, there's 3 types of homeless. Number one, the most qualifying, are the ones that have had some bad luck. They were on the edge anyway. They lost their job. The company shut down. Minimum wage went up, and all of a sudden, because it was forced to go up to a level the companies can't continue, and they closed down, and these people are out of work to no fault of their own. Maybe they're not capable of becoming a better employee and moving up in the ranks. There are those people, or the ones that don't want to, but they've got a job and they're working hard. Now they're homeless. They need help. The rest of them, the drug-infested, alcohol-infested, illegal losers that are homeless, I really don't have a whole lot of sympathy. I don't want them dying on the street. We have to either get them out of the country and fix these other people. Spend the money on fixing them. And if they can't get fixed, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. That'd be another discussion. I should have an interview on that. But it is something we have to consider and think about. So here we are today, looking at cutting expenses, bringing Trump into office, drill baby drill, sell the oil. Everybody says, well, we already have enough oil here. Well, who cares? Trump can sell oil to all these these countries that buy oil from Russia and Iran, and it could come from us. And we make deals with them, and we generate massive billions and trillions of dollars. Fix our country and help theirs. Keep them from being tied to Russia or to Iran. You don't want to be a country that's in that spot. That can be accomplished. All right, that's it for today. Thank you for being here. Would you do me a favor? Would you click on follow? Would you click on like? Keep trying to build up my show, and I need help with that. So if you do that, I'd appreciate it. I'll be back here tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. And, we'll do this again just because it's fun to do it. And I appreciate you being here. So tell your friends, tell people you don't like. Run down the street, say, you got to watch Framers View. We'll be here. Until then, carry on.
Thanks for your support. Join the Framers View Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern.